property maintenance contract. So no matter where you are in Ontario, it's very important to have a property maintenance contract outside of your lease. And the reason for this is very simply, it's liability protection. Now, let me back up a bit. Sometimes people are not sure what property maintenance includes in our verbiage here. So when I say property maintenance, I'm talking about lawn care and snow removal and salting. So as a landlord, you have the responsibility of maintaining that property. And the reason that you want a contract outside of the lease is because you want somebody to take responsibility for this liability. Really, it's liability responsibility. Think worst case, if you've got a property with a sidewalk and it wasn't salted, somebody slips and falls, and the next thing you know, you've got this letter and you're being sued by someone who was walking on the street and slipped. So that's why you need this property maintenance contract. Now, you can do it with your tenant or you can do it with a third-party professional, but it must be separate from the lease. And the reason for that is because if it's within the lease and there's a worst case scenario and you try to say, well, I told the tenant and the tenant signed here in this lease that, he will be responsible for snow removal and salting, that would go to the LTB and it would be thrown out because the LTB does not govern this. And that's why it has to be outside of that, and you would be responsible in that scenario. So let's talk about a couple of things that need to be included in this property maintenance contract. Include the date and the address, obviously. Include the fee to pay your contractor. If it's a $0 contract, it will not hold up. So you have to put something in there. I like to put $100. And the reason I do that is because when I pay my tenant $100 to maintain the property, I offset that in my lease. So if their rent was $1,600, for example, it's now going to their lease. I'm actually going to sign the lease at $1,700, and the tenant will essentially, with the difference of the two contracts, will actually pay $1,600 per month. Now, what this means is that if the tenant can no longer do the property maintenance services, they are forced to pay the additional $100. You get the full $1,700 in rent, and you can use that $100 to hire a third-party professional. Now, there are different ways to do the accounting and the bookkeeping here. And the best way, although it is some additional work and bookkeeping, is to have the tenant send you $1,700 in rent. And then when they send a picture of your property with all of the maintenance completed, then you e-transfer them back the $100. And that is the most safe way to do that. Okay. It's also important to include the applicable city bylaws. So make sure you understand which bylaws in your city or town that your property is are relevant to the property maintenance. So in Oshawa, we've got the boulevard bylaw and the property standards bylaw and the snow and ice removal bylaw. And so if, worst case, somebody does try and sue you to say, hey, you've got, you didn't clean the ice and I slipped and fell and, now you owe me, you can pull up this contract and say, look, according to this bylaw, this person is responsible for this. And it's this person's liability, it's this person's accountability, and it's really to protect you in the end. Make sure you itemize what regular maintenance includes. So make sure you say you're cutting grass, trimming hedges, collecting leaves, raking leaves, making sure there's no debris. Where are they removing the snow from? Is it the driveway, the walkway, the stairs? Where are they salting? Is it just the stairs? Is it just the driveway? So all of that stuff needs to be very clear. And lastly, include who is to provide the equipment and supplies. I like to have the tenant be responsible for that because a lot of times lawnmowers break and they're expensive to fix. And if the tenant can provide their own lawnmower, then you're not responsible for the maintenance of that machine.